funeral here. Thank you for joining in with me. I would like to share some of my insight from experience here on charter renewal. For some people, this has been a scary topic and one that has had a great deal of delay, hesitation in many of our units. Hopefully those days are behind us and all of us are involved with getting things taken care of on time. There are 4 phases I would like to talk about with this work today. First of all is to be prepared. And the time for that really started 2 months ago, so that we have a lead time to get things done. Some of these things that should have started up in August include the person who is the committee trainer, if there is one, going into my.scouting.org and looking up through training manager to find out who stands where with their youth protection training. When we get into the point of rechartering, any individuals whose youth protection training runs out by the end of this current year will not be able to be re-registered for the new year. It is a must to have that current, and current for us means it needs to be effective January 1st. So it runs out before then, it needs to be renewed. 70 minutes is the advertised time to take that training and renew it. It is useful for us individually on our own things to be aware of and how we deal with our scouts, cubs that are with us, but at the same time helps us to be alert to things, various signs that we may run across to help us identify children who may be in some sort of an abusive relationship. So for youth protection, reminders are needed to be extended starting back in August to get these people to renew. This is often a challenging area and requires a lot of follow-up. We have many individuals who say, well, I'll get to it next week. And next week comes and they need another reminder and another reminder. So starting early for youth protection renewal is a must. The second area, take a look at here on this first phase has to do with the registration costs. The treasurer, if we have one on the committee, needs to have this courtesy item to each of our adults, parents, let them know what the projected fees are going to cost. Again, this year, those fees have been raised, and at least we have the notice ahead this time. Last year, we were into the process of collecting fees and got notification of a significant increase in cost. So diplomacy needed here, give people a little advance notice. This is what it's going to cost when we get to the rechartering process. Second phase that I'd like to address here is during the month of September, which is only a few more days left in it, there are 5 separate needed tasks that need to be addressed. One is to take a look at who you have and who you need to replace. In the 2 units that I'm working with, COVID has taken a real hit to our membership. Some of our parents have lost their job and had to move. Some people are very fearful of getting together in a group yet, not sending their children to school, and not willing to come to group meetings where there are a lot of people. And so we have to have additional people on board to fill some of those vacancies. Second area to take a look at in the month of September is where our staff is in regards to their training courses. We need everybody to have that training under their belt because our youth deserve to have trained leaders. If they're not trained, what is it they are teaching? We need to know what our game plan is if we're going to stand up in front of the group. Third area is to make sure we get the people who are serving perhaps or about to be registered. That would be both our youth and adults. It's nice to have visitors, but we don't need them week after week. We need them enrolled in part of our staff. Journey to Excellence scorecards. This tells us the areas where we need to be looking at how we're doing. National has a modified version this year because of the COVID impact, and those can be addressed and located on the national website under Commissioners. But the Journey to Excellence program is our self-imposed report card. Tells us just what it is we ought to be doing as adults. How are we doing with our boys? Are they, and our girls, are they advancing? And so this qualifies us for gold, silver, or bronze at the end of the year, and a patch that's awarded to the youth and a ribbon for the pack or the troop. Another area is Boys Life magazine. If you were a member of Scouting as a youth, you remember those great jokes. The boys still laugh at them. Most of them will roll their eyes, but inside they're still smiling. In the work I do with our troop, I have 3 jokes that our boys share each week, most of whom which have come from Boys Life, some of them from Facebook, but the boys like to listen to those jokes. But more importantly, within those magazines, there are serious articles that deal with additional packs or troops across the nation, maybe even beyond, and some of the super activities that they have done. I encourage our youth to take a look at those and make suggestions to our troop committee or our leaders and say, hey, is this something we could do within our unit? So I have them looking for those ideas and implementing them to the extent possible. It is a well-known fact, established item here, that those youth who have access to the Boys Life magazine will stay with the program longer and go farther with their advancement. All we have to do is ask the parents, could you spare $1 a month? Let's take $12, sign your boy up or your girl. At the end of the year, there's also a ribbon available for the pack or troop, but we were a 100% Boys Life subscription. Charter renewal, 3rd phase, during the month of October, coming up for us. This is our duty, take care of business here. First thing we want to do is get ready for the charter renewal package. There are certain things that we will need to do to get into that. For instance, leaders who are on the records but no longer serving. When we get into that portal, we want to delete those individuals so they're not carried on our list. Then we have adults who may have new positions. A den leader may now be serving as a cub master. We need to have all these changes lined out, ready to go, and the month of October is the time to get that in order. And then contact information, particularly during this COVID time. We have people who have moved, who may have a new phone number, who may have a new email. We need to be able to check each of those and see that the information we have for them is current. And sometimes we have youth we have lost. Some may age out, turning 11, still on the cub rolls. We want to move them into the troop. We have those who have, for one reason or another, lost interest. That may be lack of a quality program where they vote with their feet. It may be something that is brought about because it no longer is of interest to them, or it may be that they have moved and are cross town, cross state, and not within our unit. During the input into the charter renewal, we'll be asked to identify those youth who are not continuing and give a little quick, and the choices are there. Why are they not returning? And then during the month of October, we need to be collecting fees, getting that deposited into our unit account, because as part of the rechartering process, when we get towards the end, they'll calculate up the cost of renewal, the cost of Boys Life, the cost of liability insurance, and they'll bill us for one great big quantity of money. And if we have not been collecting that money from our individual parents, we're going to have a hard time making that payment. So collecting the fees during the month of October can be a challenging item. That's why I suggest in September, we give a heads up to the parents. This is what we're going to need from you during the month of October. Fees, again, have gone up. Youth and adults, fees were raised by $6 for this new year. Youth registrations are now $66 and adult $42. There is an additional fee that was announced in the summer. New members, first time, youth or adult, never been registered on the rolls of BSA previously. We now have a $25 joining fee that is required. Liability insurance, at least in our council, is $5 each for youth and adults. And then there's that great magazine, $12. So we need to have that idea in mind for each family. This is what it's going to cost you. We are sending out that information to our parents this next week and telling them that is due by the end of the month of October. This chart here was released in the summer when National raised their fees and implemented the new member joining fee. This little flyer is available on National, explaining where this money is headed. The fourth phase on this for us has to do with entering the information online for the charter renewal. Our council's portal will open up the 1st of November. If we've got everything ready to go, we need somebody who's computer savvy to enter that information. Some of us who have been around for a while may not be as computer savvy as we need, but somebody needs to enter all this information. If that person that's entering that is okay with the computer skills, but not up on terminology with scouting, then we need to have somebody, unit commissioner, charter, committee chair, unit leader, with them to help guide them through that process. If we have multiple units, for instance, a troop and a pack, we want to start with the troop first. And the reason for that is as we move people from the pack to the troop, we want to be able to reach down from the troop level into the pack level to promote those younger people, whether it be youth or adults, into the older group. And so we start with the oldest group first. Then there are people like myself who are multiple registrants. I do not need to pay my $42 for rechartering for the troop and the pack. I get identified as a multiple registrant. So I pay in the troop, and then when we look into the charter for the Cubs, then we identify myself and anyone else who's serving in both units as a multiple, meaning we have already paid and do not need to be paying a second round. Then, as that information is entered and ready to go, then we want to bring in the committee chair, both for the pack and the troop, and the unit leader, to look over that charter, the membership. Do we have all the youth? Do we have all the adults? Is there anything that was not obvious to the person who is entering the data that may be obvious to the committee chair or the unit leader? And then we want to finalize and approve prior to submitting. That button for submit needs to be the last thing entered, because once that's pressed, no further changes are allowed. If it shows things in there in red, we need to get that taken care of. For instance, an adult who does not have a current youth protection training will show up in red. That training needs to occur, or that individual needs to be deleted before we can proceed. And then one of the items on there is say, okay, here is your cost, total amount due. You make arrangements for that with your credit card and arrangements there to be in place. Tells you how much, and you go through the process of identifying your credit card information, and then you hit that submit button. I am suggesting that November 15th is an excellent date to use for hitting that submit button, on or before. So sometime 1st of November through the 15th, be prepared to go through that process and hit that submit button. The reason for that target date of November 15th is so that you can enjoy a great Turkey Day without this hanging over your head. Now, when we get ready to print, we want to be able to print 2 copies of that completed charter. Along with the charter, we're going to send 1 copy to council. They will receive the electronic version also, but we send in a paper copy with signatures on it. And we want to include our filled out copy of Journey to Excellence scorecard. That will ask us to anticipate the last couple of months of the year because it runs up through the end of December. We have to submit it in prior to that. In our work with our unit commissioner, we need to have the opportunity to set goals for the new year. So we look at what we did for this year for completion on this JTE scorecard. But then at the same time, we're going to take a look at the new goal scorecard for the new year, and any areas that we struggled with would be areas to target as goals to work on for the new year. If you get that in place by the middle of November, you can enjoy your holidays, starting with Thanksgiving, conscience clear, and you're all ready to go. The next and final aspect there is that the COR schedules a date with the sponsoring institution to present the charter. This is a big deal. It should be a formal occasion in front of the committee for that group or the whole group. The COR does the scheduling. Our unit commissioner is the one who takes that paper charter and proudly presents it to that sponsoring institution. And then they're happy with what they have been able to be a part of, and we are too. Now, when we go into my.scouting.org, there are some key tools for us to be familiar with in working on an ongoing basis. Member Manager, this gives us an inventory of all of our youth and adult members and their positions. So we know at a glance, oh, that person is no longer with us. We need to be looking for a replacement. Applications where we can add members. It is always nice to be able to deal with this on an electronic basis. One of the big time savers for us on the council level is our registrar. Maybe in the case of our council, only one person. Used to be, we had basically an army of helpers there, but that's no longer the case. Paper applications that go in have to be entered by her item by item. So electronically, online applications, that's the way to go. Our training manager, we've talked about this earlier, identifies who needs to take youth protection. Start early on that, stay up with it on all the time. National does send out a reminder to individuals starting 2 months ahead of the expiration and get that taken care of. But we need to deal with it on a local basis as well. When we get into the internet rechartering, that portal will open up for our council November 1st. There's a tutorial available, and our registrar will send us an access code for each unit that we're working with. So internet rechartering for our council, November. And applications that have been submitted, either paper or online, will show up on that if we have turned them in prior to December. Now, once we open up that portal, the new membership is locked up and frozen until January 1st. So if you're wanting new people onto your charter, get them in at least 2 weeks prior to opening that portal up. If it's November 1st and you haven't sent in your people, paper or online, get it taken care of, and then wait 2 weeks till your deadline, really 15th, before you open up. Otherwise, they will not show up. Applications received after that need to be manually entered on the charter and attached to the charter paper copy submitted to council. When you use the internet rechartering, it automatically, after you've hit the submit button, sends it to the council office. It also provides for an electronic signature, your payment, and electronic submission. When we're all finished, I'm going to print 2 copies, one for our unit records. I have had to go back into our Cub and our Scout unit records several times this last year, and having that paper copy was very useful to me. What role here is we're working with this. There aren't too many key players, but they are key. First of all is our chair. This individual organizes and leads the team of whoever is going to be involved with this. Chair is critical. Trainer deals with the youth protection follow-up, encourages other people to get their basic training also. Our treasurer deals with our finances, tactfully lets the families know this is how much money we're going to ask of you, and we need it by this date. Our renewal processor, cute title, is the person who inputs all the data for internet rechartering. If you have a secretary for your committee, this is an obvious task that is that person. If you don't have a committee secretary, if you don't have a treasurer, if you don't have a trainer, either the chair or someone that the chair appoints is going to have to pick up the slack for these other 3 areas. Many hands make the work light, so always a good idea to have each of these people on board on an ongoing basis. Our unit leader, that would be our Cub master, that would be our Scout master. This is the individual who is familiar with who they're seeing, who they haven't seen, reviews that charter before it's submitted, make sure that those individuals are in place, those that have not been coming, an extra effort made ahead of time to see and get them back on board. The chartered organizational representative schedules the charter organization contact, also reviews the charter before submittal, and may approve that charter renewal application. So these are our people who help us make this all work. Overseeing all of this is our unit commissioner. If we have a unit commissioner who's able to visit and help, they help with the training of our adults, their coaching, they also present the charter. Unit commissioners has always been a key area for us in the scouting organization, and it's also always one we have always been shorthanded with. In my 8 years prior as a scoutmaster, I had 1 unit commissioner pay 1 visit to my troop in that time period. So sometimes with the stress and strain perhaps of a weak committee, that unit leader role can get to be a lonely outpost. A unit commissioner can be an invaluable person to us in pumping up and helping that unit leader keep themselves mentally afloat. Well, everything has its consequences. Some are good, some are not so good. Potential for not completing charter renewal accurately or on time. If the data is inaccurate, members may not be registered, fees may not be paid correctly. If the unit is not registered for the new charter year, this may affect advancement for the youth. That is not going to happen unless a charter is really, really behind. Everything is entered in by the council people during the month of December if we have got it to them, and becomes effective January 1st. If they don't have that material, that unit is in default, and then shortly thereafter, they become a dropped unit. If a dropped unit is in effect, the boy is no longer in a position for getting his advancement recorded. So timeliness is important. So part of the journey to excellence, we get credit for turning things in on time. So we want to be able to do that. In summary, the committee chair leads a team effort. Planning is key. Assignments and schedules outlined by the chair. The commissioner is involved with training, coaching, reviewing, a great support person for that team. If you have questions of me, I can be reached at this phone number or my email address. I take phone calls as well as text and respond to emails. So at this point, questions from any of the audience? Q&A.
This is Rob Hendrickson. I'm the Youth Protection Champion for the Council. I have one caveat to your presentation, Charlie. We want to make sure that people that have done youth protection in the past mid-year, anybody who's going to expire on their youth protection during 2021, we want them to redo their youth protection during unit recharter. We want more than just those that are expiring this year.
Okay, thank you very much.
This is John Spencer. I have a question. I'm going to make an assumption here, and tell me if I'm wrong, that if you have a new unit, these dates and approaches are the same. True or false?
New units do not have to go through rechartering during their first year. They're given a grace period. So if a unit was chartered January 1st, 2020 or later, they have a bonus year for that.
Okay, sounds good.
So Charlie, did you receive the email from Josh Hackey on the rechartering schedule?
Yes.
Okay. I know that was sent out to me as a district commissioner, and I know it needs to go out to our unit commissioners, so they're aware of what that process is.
Yeah, they are trying to identify each of those people and send out that letter.
Okay.
Just a question for me on the rechartering process for entering the charter stuff. That is on the unit level, and we as commissioners help support our unit commissioners to make sure that they're supporting those units to get it done properly. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Charlie, this is Jim Brookie.
Hello, Jim.
You talked about the unit that in a long period of time you never saw a unit commissioner and the like, and that is a problem. But I would say that when I was first a unit commissioner, my district exec, after about 2 cycles of getting units rechartered, he relied completely on me as a unit commissioner to make sure the charter renewal package was complete and correct. And he would ask me, he says, have you reviewed all the signatures or all the signatures there? And I said, yes. He says, if you added the monies, is the money correct? And I said, it's correct. He said, okay, that's all I need to do. And he got to the point where he would just take the package that I provided him after I verified everything was correct, and he would turn it into the council and we'd be done. So I think there's a spectrum on there of responsibility of what maybe a district exec can come to expect from a commissioner. And that is to make sure everything's correct and done and valid and ready to go.
It's people like you we would love to be able to clone. Thank you.
I'm getting the impression through the council that one of the things that we're going to see a lot different this year is the district executives are going to put a lot more emphasis on the unit commissioners doing their job, where it hasn't been so much in the past. So I think it means that we be, you know, as administrative commissioners need to be a lot more vigilant in helping those unit commissioners accomplish the tasks that they have, that they need to. So.
Hip, hip, hooray. Thank you.